The Godox SL200W2 light is the latest version of the SL series of lights from Godox. At the time of this review, this latest version comes in two models, which is the SL200W2 and the SL150W2. The SL200W2 is a 200-watt 5600K 96 CRI COB light weighing in at 3.33 kilograms with a maximum brightness of 74,000 lux at 1 meter. The SL150W2 has similar specs except it weighs less at 2.95 kilograms with a maximum brightness of 58,000 lux at 1 meter. They both have various changes in design, features, functionality, and light output to the original units, and they are also priced higher. In this review, I will only be covering areas that is important to me, and with some research you should be able to find other reviews or specifications online that will cover other areas that I have omitted. The reason why I decided to purchase this light were the following. I needed a secondary light that had a greater light output than the Yongnuo YN600, the Godox SL60W, or Aputure 120D Mark II lights so that I can have the flexibility to light a greater area for a group interview setup or scene lighting. I needed a light that I could use outdoors to be powerful enough to compete with the sun as a key or fill light or mimic the sun for specific scenes. I needed a light that had enough power which would allow me to rely less on increasing my ISO to get sufficient exposure at the aperture and shutter speeds that I wanted. I needed a light that could mix well with other daylights such as the Yongnuo YN600 Led Panel or Aputure 120D Mark II COB light. I needed a light that was quiet enough to place close to a subject without hearing the fan noise on the recordings. And I needed a light that was affordable and within my budget. Based on my budget and requirements, I narrowed it down to the original Godox SL150W and SL200W lights, but I was hesitant due to the negative feedback these lights received for their noisy fans. Godox informed me that the fans had been updated since January this year 2020, but were unable to confirm how much of an improvement the fan noise was. But reviews I have found online claim that the updated fans are quieter than the original. I was searching online for better prices on the Godox SL200W when I came across the latest version of the Godox SL200W2 light, which was priced between the original Godox SL200W and the Godox VL200 light. The SL200W2 light has improvements and additional features and functions over the original and has also taken some of the features and functions of the VL200 light. These improvements, features and functions include a special pattern reflector, Yoke side tension knob, new internal effects, lower noise fans, Bowens Mount locking system, the ability for the yoke to be mounted vertically or horizontally, and the new 2.4G wireless X system remote. There were no reviews online about the SL200W2 light at the time, but I decided to purchase it anyways based on the comparison I made between the original, other models, and this latest version. The Godox SL200W2 COB light comes with a COB light, lamp cover, reflector, remote, long power cable, instruction manual, and warranty card. It lacks a carry bag, which is fine if you plan to store this in an original box or you want to add this to a large lighting bag or case that you already have. Now, the original box has not been designed well to protect the unit. As the styrofoam padding does not surround the unit from all perimeters of the box, Godox have tried to minimize the space taken by overlapping the reflector over the COB light. I would handle this with care if you plan to use the original box as your carry case to transport this unit, as it does not protect the unit well. If you need to buy a bag to store this unit in, then I would reconsider purchasing this light, as a suitable bag can cost over $100 and might not even be designed to fit this unit properly. You may be better off with other lights that already have a bag provided, such as the Godox VL series of lights. The remote looks like an update version of the original remote and uses two AAA batteries. This remote uses the Godox 2.4G wireless X system. The inside of the reflector uses special reflective patterns to produce a higher light output. The lamp cover is shallow and not as deep as the Aputure 120D Mark II lamp cover. Now, the power cable is approximately 5 meters long and it uses the standard 3-prong IEC C13 power cable found on most computer systems. The unit comes with the instruction manual and warranty card. The design of the unit I would describe as simple, utilitarian, or industrial looking. The all-in-one nature of this light is one of the main reasons I chose this light. It is quick and easy to set up compared to other lights that require you to connect multiple pieces together to get it running, such as the Aputure 120D Mark II light. It is made of metal and plastic and the construction feels sturdy, but not as compact and solid as the Aputure 120D Mark II light. The SL200W2 feels light for its size. It has vented slits that provide airflow to the unit and has two internal fans with bearings located at the top and bottom of the unit to help circulate the air. These units use a circular COB Led protected by glass. The user interface is located at the rear of the light and contains a backlit LCD screen, several function buttons, and two knobs that are well laid out, intuitive, and user-friendly. The knobs are smooth and easy to turn, and the buttons are a good size, has a prominent click sound, and a spongy or springy feel to it. The silent button illuminates when the fan is on, and it's rather bright. There is an umbrella clamp beneath the unit, which makes this useful for those who want to mount an umbrella onto this light or place the light inside an open softbox or a softbox with a honeycomb grid without a diffuser. I would advise not to mount this inside a fully enclosed softbox as heat will build up with this unit. The Bowens mounting mechanism on this unit is excellent, with a large sliding button instead of a sliding pin to lock the Bowens mount in place. This makes removing your light modifiers much easier. It uses a shallow Bowens mounting system which allows for a variety of different Bowens depth light modifiers. The Godox reflector when mounted on a light though is not tight-fitting and can rattle when moved. The yoke can be mounted in two different positions, allowing for vertical and horizontal mounting of the light. The side tension knob secures the light quite firmly into position when tightened sufficiently and uses a rubber washer between a Rosetta-type locking system, but there is some slack if you do not tighten the side tension knob enough. My concern over the side tension knob system is the durability of the rubber washer, as the Rosetta teeth looks sharp. The rubber washer may eventually deteriorate over time, especially through constant heavy use or heavy tightening. There are two fans using bearings located at the top and bottom of this unit. The fans always remain on unless you put it into silent mode. The two SL200W2 yellow propellers measure approximately 78mm, which is slightly bigger than the approximately 73mm single yellow propeller of the Aputure 120D Mark II fan. In silent mode, the light will be limited to 50 watts, which is approximately 28% on the SL200W2 power setting in normal mode as indicated by our tests, and the fan will remain off and will not turn automatically on if the light gets too hot. Godox has informed us that the light will not get too hot running in silent mode at this wattage. In this comparison chart, we can see approximately how many stops you lose when going into silent mode as compared to normal mode. The reduction in light output in silent mode will limit its use to more close-up work, especially if you are diffusing the light. It would have been more useful if Godox removed the wattage limit and included a temperature readout on the unit and added an automatic fan so that users would be able to monitor if the unit is getting too hot and therefore manually turn the fan on, and also have the safety of an automatic fan that will turn on if the unit begins to overheat. This will give users better control on how to manage the fan noise when recording a scene where noise could be an issue. For example, users will be able to estimate how much time they may have to record a scene quietly before they need to turn the fan on because the light is getting too hot. If they had made a misjudgment on how hot the light is running, then the automatic fan would take over. I presume that the SL150W2 light will be quieter than the SL200W2 as it is only using a single fan. The use of two fans makes this light as loud as a fan on a laptop or a computer. It is audible when hearing the fan in person, and it is noticeable if you listen carefully in the recording. Based on fan noise examples I've heard online regarding the original SL200W, I believe Godox have been successful in reducing the fan noise, and the levels are comparable to the Aputure 120D Mark II light, which uses a single fan. Here is a comparison of the tone and relative level of the fan noise between the SL200W2 and the Aputure 120D Mark II light. Both lights are set to 100% light output, and both audio levels have been increased but remain relative to how loud they are to each other at the same mic position. If you are familiar with the Aputure 120D Mark II fan noise, then this should give you an idea of how loud the SL200W2 light is. If not, then please check the description for details on our other video which tests the loudness of the Aputure 120D Mark II fan in a simulated scenario. If you find the Aputure 120D Mark II fan noise acceptable when in use, then I do not think you will be offended with the fan noise of the SL200W2 light. The remote is small, has the main function buttons, a backlit LCD screen with power remaining icon, group and channel settings, light output in percentage, and color temperature in kelvins. The color temperature value can be changed, but it has no effect on the light, but there are still some uses for it, such as a reminder of what color temperature the light is, or to indicate what color temperature all the lights in a scene are set to. You can change the light output from 0 to 100% in simple increments using the remote, but there is a short delay before the settings are changed on the light. You can scroll quickly through the values, but it is not real-time changes, which means you cannot make a gradual increase or decrease in light output. You have to stop scrolling through the values first before the changes take effect on the light. The power on-off button only turns off the light, but the unit and the fan remains on. This is good for when you need to change light modifiers whilst allowing the unit to cool down. It also helps increase the lifespan of the power on-off switch of the light. The remote and the light only syncs in one direction. The light syncs to the settings set by the remote, meaning if you change settings on the light, it does not update the changes to the remote. But if you change the settings on the remote, the light will follow the changes set by the remote. The remote should have included the ability to control the effects and silent mode of the light, as this would have allowed for full control of the light when it is mounted at the hard-to-reach places such as on a 3-meter light stand, inside of a softbox, or in front of a wall where the rear of the units cannot be reached. This is important as there may be times where you do not want to move the lights out of position. I have tested the remote 10 meters away from the light and it works fine. It also worked when the remote and the light were left in opposite enclosed rooms separated by a room in between. The Godox Bowens reflector uses a special reflective pattern designed to produce a higher light output. This is evident in the tests I have done when comparing it in use against the typical smooth silver reflector found in the Aputure 120D Mark II light. There is a noticeable difference in the intensity of light when measured from the middle of the light projected. The Godox reflector does make the light beam more focused compared to the Aputure standard reflector, which has a greater spread. There are 8 lighting effects presets available with the SL200W light. They are Flash 1, Flash 2, Flash 3, Storm 1, Storm 2, Storm 3, TV, and broken bulb. They are not adjustable, but with some clever use of blocking the light and color gels, you can add inconsistencies in the effect and make it more authentic or natural. There is a clicking sound that emits from the light whenever the light switches on and off during an effect. The power cable is in line with good quality computer power cables, and the 5-meter length is adequate without being overwhelming to carry. An extension lead can be used for those times when greater length is needed. In my tests, I noticed no flickering when recording in 25p, 50p, and variable frame rate mode on the Panasonic GH5 mirrorless camera. The shutter speeds in my tests include 1/50th, 1/100th, 1/200th, 1/320th, 1/500, and 1/1000, and the SL200W light output was set at 5%, 50%, and 100%. The SL200W light produces a much brighter light output than the Aputure 120D Mark II light. The color quality of this light at a CRI rating of 96 is adequate for my use, but my main concern when I decided to purchase this light was how it would mix with other lights. Here are some tests performed in mixing various lights together. These include the Godox SL200W, Aputure 120D Mark II, Yongnuo YN600, 5500K Fluorescent Globes, and the sun. For the COB lights, I have used the Bowens Mount reflectors, and the Fluorescent Globes, I used a bare 60 by 90 cm softbox with no diffusers or grid. This is to help focus these lights on the subject. The Yongnuo YN600 Led Panel was used bare with no filters attached. I've also adjusted the exposure to skin tones using false colors in these tests. Based on the results, I found that there are some differences between the lights when mixed together to light a subject. Some more distinct than others. The differences are likely due to the light's different CRI qualities and color cast it produces. I find that mixing the SL200W2 and Aputure 120D Mark II light acceptable, with the 5500K fluorescent globes producing the most distinct differences between the lights with its green color cast. If this is an issue, you could use color correction filters or use a reflector to bounce a fill light back to the subject in order to keep the colors consistent. It was not a very bright sunny day when these tests were performed, but the SL200W2 light with the Godox reflector did okay lighting with the sun. Depending on what light modifier is used and how bright and sunny the day is, the SL200W2 light could be used as a key light. As for the Aputure 120D Mark II light, it struggled to have sufficient power to light a subject with the sun with a light at approximately 1 meter distance. The SL200W2 light does not have a battery option. This is an advantage if it's a feature you will not likely use, especially with the price of V-mount batteries in the market. If you need portability with this light, you could consider using a portable pure sine wave power station. The SL200W2 light cannot be used with an app unlike the Godox VL series lights. This would have been a good feature to include, as sometimes you may want to reduce the number of remotes you carry with you, or if you forget to bring the remote. Here is a summary of the pros and cons of this unit. Should you buy the SL150W2 instead of the SL200W2 light? If the light output of the SL150W2 is sufficient for your use and you do not need a higher output light, then I would consider the SL150W2 over the SL200W2 since it is cheaper, uses a single fan which may make the unit quieter, and has similar functions and features as the SL200W2 model. There are more and more COB lights hitting the market, and with all these options available, it can become overwhelming when trying to decide which light to choose from. When I decided to choose this light, I considered what my budget was and what are the important features and functions I must have in the light before I decide to buy it. The Godox SL200W2 light has managed to meet most of my requirements, and even though there are still some features or functions that they could improve on or I wish they had included, based on my budget and what other competitors were offering, I believe that this light is the most suitable choice for my use at this time.